Hello class, welcome back to Art 1 Online. Today we're in lesson 2 of our ceramics class and we're going to be picking up where we left off. Last class we made pinch pots and today we're going to be combining them together by scoring and slipping. Now the materials that we'll need for this is a needle tool. This is optional, but it's a scoring tool, and here is another scoring tool, a serrated rib. These are not optional. You will need a metal kidney and a rubber kidney. And last but not least, you're going to need a jar of slip. So today, we're going to be taking our two pinch pots from last class and combining them by scoring and slipping. But to practice that, before we get to our pinch pots, we're going to be combining these two rectangles of clay. You're going to need a needle tool, and all that you're going to do is cut into it a couple of millimeters deep, all the way up. This is where these optional tools come in handy because it makes the process a lot faster. As you can see, instead of one little needle, they have multiple, and you can just slide right up and it cuts all of them for you. This tool is also handy because it's like 5 needle tools in one, and it makes it very fast. So now we're going to put slip onto our two pieces of clay. Slip is like clay glue. It's liquid clay and it'll act like glue in the firing process. So you can see me take some out. You don't need a whole lot, and you're just going to smear it on one side, on one of the slabs. Then you're going to lift up the other slab, put it on top of the slip, and then press it in firmly with your thumb. Just like that. So the goal here is to smooth out this seam as best as you can to make it to where you can't see it at all. This will make sure the two pieces are combined. So once I'm done with using my thumb, I'm going to pull out my metal rib and smooth it out as best as I can. This is sped up, so you should be taking your time and making sure you smooth it out very, very well. Now I'm done on this side, and as you can see, the bottom looks very smooth and the top is still not quite there yet. It's a little uneven, so we're going to flip it over, and I pulled the clay this way, so now we're going to pull the clay the opposite direction. And I'm going to start with my left hand to show y'all, but I'm not very good with my left hand, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate the clay and pull with my right hand. I'm still pulling in the opposite direction as last time, but because I rotated it, I'm able to use my dominant hand. Again, this clip is sped up. This is not as fast as I'm doing it, but I did it so y'all don't have to watch me work for a couple minutes. So take your time, make sure this seam is really well smoothed out to where you can't see any difference between the two pieces of clay that we're combining. So I'm done smoothing it out. I think that I have my two pieces together, and I can check by cutting a small piece off and seeing from the side. And there you have it. There's no air bubbles, there's no gaps. Our two slabs are completely combined. Now that we've learned how to score and slip two slabs together, we're going to be moving on and scoring and slipping our two pinch pots from last class together. I asked y'all to make two similar sized pinch pots, so one should not be wider or more narrow than the other. A little variation is not a big deal, but it would make it very difficult to smooth out the seam in between the two. The tools that we'll be using for this are also a needle tool, but if you have these two optional tools, it will make scoring and slipping much easier in this step. Otherwise, it will take a very long time, but that's totally okay and it is possible. As you can see here, I'm scoring and slipping with the needle tool just like you would if you didn't have the optional tools. Now this is something you want to be aware of. Do not carve too deep into the pottery. That's a no-no. You will mess up the pottery and it will be very hard to fix. Now I'm speeding this up for you, and as you see, it's a long process, which is why I had to speed it up, but it is possible. So if you only have a needle tool, don't worry. Take your time and make sure you do it correctly using the proper technique. coming to the end of scoring the rim, but now you want to make sure you get the very top of this pot scored as well. You can see here I switched to the optional scoring tool to make this faster for y'all to see. And one thing that you want to make sure when using this is to make sure that you're cutting just as deep as you would with the optional tool as you would with a regular needle tool. Now we're going to be moving on to our next pinch pot, and this time we're going to be scoring on the inside of the pot and the rim as well. If you have this optional tool, it makes this process go by a lot faster. So I'm going to use it right here, scoring around the edge, making sure I'm cutting very deep. And then you want to make sure that you have two different directions of scoring. So I'm going to go in with my needle tool and score upwards all the way around the inside. Now that I'm done carving out the inside, I'm going to be scoring the rim just like last time, again using that optional tool. If you don't have this, a needle tool will work just fine. Now it's time to put these two together. So we're going to grab our slip, and as you can see here, I was about to use the tool, but my hands were already messy, so I decided to just use my finger and smear it on there. Just a little bit will go a long way with this, so I'm just barely coating the top layer of this, and I'm going to put some on the inside of this pinch pot. Once I'm done with that, I scrape off the excess and I lift these two pieces to get ready to combine them. I squish it together a little bit with my hand, and now I'm going to start smoothing with my thumb, just like we did on the slabs. Sometimes the rims might not meet up all the way, so you kind of squish it a little bit more and just smoothing it out as best as you can. As you can see, I'm being pretty rough here, and that's okay because we're going to go back later and clean it up with our ribs. So I just finished smoothing out the seam with my thumb, and I'm going back and getting any of the very rough spots that I just got, and now it's time to use your rib. The metal rib is a little too hard, so we're going to use the rubber rib. Going in and smoothing out as best as we can any gaps and bumps that we didn't get the first time around with our thumb. I also just wanted to inform you that this is sped up, so you can be rough with your clay, but don't be too rough. Make sure not to rush, take your time, and make that seam disappear. There I am. I feel like this piece, the seam is gone, but it's a little lumpy, so I'm trying to form the sphere with my hand to make it more of a circle. You can do this by rolling it around on the table. You can roll it one way or the other. You can vary that as much as you would like. I want mine to be a sphere, so I'm going to do it with my hands. And I just wanted to let y'all know, if you roll your clay on the table, you're going to get some canvas texture. So you're going to want to smooth that out with your rib or your thumb and get rid of that. Again, canvas texture is no good. So canvas texture, bad. So you're going to smooth that out. You want it to look very smooth because that canvas texture will show up in the glazing process, and that's a no-go. Once you get to a spot where you think you've smoothed out everything, you can do one last inspection, call it good, and make sure to poke an air hole for air to escape. This is important because as the clay shrinks, the air inside will stay the same size and expand and could possibly blow up. Here's a sneak peek at next class's lesson. We will be turning our clay sphere into a clay creature. We will be scoring and slipping eyes, we will be cutting mouths, and we can even be adding fins onto our creature. So I want y'all to be thinking about what your creature is going to be, and I can't wait to see y'all next class. Bye!